Bank of Kenya has released a report that indicates exactly how lenders within the economy were a bit cautious when it comes to lending to smaller businesses within the country as we got into the COVID-19 pandemic season. And I'm talking about 2020 all the way to where we are right now. So let's look at that. They're saying that a quarter of smaller businesses in the country were turned away from loans last year. And that is from the banks and the microfinance institutions in the country. Now let's look at that. They're saying that the banks turned away 28% of smaller businesses who approached the banking institutions in the country for loans, while microfinance lenders declined 96% of those loan applications. Wow. Talk about those numbers this morning as well. Now, according to the microfinance lenders in the country, 740 billion, if you look at that, was approved between 2019 and 2020, but only 546 billion was approved in 2020. If you look at that, they did approve 740 billion in 2019, but that figure dropped to 546 billion, which was probably 74% of those loans that were approved to smaller businesses in the country. Let's continue. If you look at the restructuring of those loans, therefore, in 2020, you're going to realize that 75,559 small and medium enterprise loans were restructured. And if you then put that into a monetary value, it crosses over to 234.7 billion. That was restructured in 2020. Now, if you go back to 2019, you'll only find that 4,348 of those loans were restructured, and it is just 20.6 billion of worth. If you go back to 2019, you will see that bigger disparity. 20.6 in 2019, jumping all the way to 234.7 billion in 2020, cementing the effect of the coronavirus pandemic in the economy and especially in the smaller businesses in the country. All right, let's look at that. NCBA, which we do know has been heavy on lending to smaller businesses in the economy, they reduced those loans by 2.7 billion. That's according to the half year, and 51% of those loans were also seen to be reducing across the board as well, and bigger banks like Equity and KCB that turned to lending to the government. Because if you look at where we are in terms of that 3.6 trillion debt to the government, 51% of that money is held by banks in the country, cementing exactly where the lending was when it comes to commercial banks in the country. It was essentially to the government securities, which they owe 51%. All right, now we do know now that there are plans by Treasury to extend 10 billion shillings to small and medium enterprises in the country to get them out of the grips of the coronavirus pandemic. Whether this data is going to change is for us to wait and see exactly how that is going to fare in 2021, because there is a bigger stress by the government for the growth of the small and medium enterprises in the country. Let's move on. Safaricom has received a nod officially by the Ethiopia Communication Authority to start their operations in 2022. That is in Ethiopia, and that license is effective 9th July 2021, and it's valid for 15 years. And it looks as if Safaricom is going to run the same brand as the one that they run in Kenya. Now, Safaricom, we do not have the majority stake in that consortium. We do know the other majority, the other stakeholders are the British Development Finance Agency and the CDC Group and Japan's Sumitomo Corporation, making up or opening up that bigger market of 100 million people to Safaricom. Good. Now, we've run a story here on Business AM on exactly what's going on in international tea prices in the country. Yes, that price, the Ministry of Agriculture has put it at 183, the price of producing 1 kilo of tea in the country. It looks as if, from conversations we've had here on Business AM, the tea players were saying that would vary depending on the region that you are, because they said putting it at an average of 210 to 200 shillings. But now this morning, we're saying, or we have reports that that price of a kilogram of tea is dropping further, because the ministry had put it at 179. Now it stands at 167. And it looks as if KTDA is not reacting well to that price cap of all KTDA produced teas that the Ministry of Agriculture sort of introduced into the market to mitigate the price falls at the local tea auctions, because it looks as if smallholder tea farmers in the country, led by KTDA, they're actually holding back from selling their teas, sort of a reaction to that price cap introduced by the Ministry of Agriculture. Now, the seniors did speak exclusively to Metropole Television and spoke about what they're introducing that price cap, but it looks as if it's working opposite to what exactly it was supposed to achieve, because of what we do know, 53% of the teas from KTDA have been withdrawn from the auction floor. Now, the latest auction was offered 34 million kilograms, but 7 million of those were actually withdrawn from the floor, and that is the reaction to the 1 billion shillings worth of teas that was rejected after that price cap was introduced by the Ministry of Agriculture. Let me just correct my statement. It is 13.4 million kilograms that was offered, and 7 million of those have been struck out of the auction floor. Now, we do know the price is between 183 shillings producing 1 kg of tea against 167 selling. That is the latest that we have from the price floor in terms of the auction prices in the country. Let's talk about KCB again in the country. KCB, sorry, and that is going to make us look at where they are in terms of the key performance indicators. Can we jump to that this morning? Yes. The net interest income, when you look at that, and we're looking at that vis-a-vis quarter one of 2020 and quarter one of 2021, you can see that jump, sort of KCB moving away from the effects of the coronavirus pandemic in a quarter one of 2021. Now, total non-interest income, again, we do have that disparity again between quarter one of 2020 and quarter one of 2021. But if you look at that profit before tax in quarter one of 2020 vis-a-vis quarter one of 2021, you're going to see that yes, indeed, the jump, same data is supported in a quarter one profit after tax, quarter one of 2020 vis-a-vis quarter one of 2021. Now, the data that we have around this morning around KCB is that trend of where local shareholders were really taking up a bigger stake in KCB has continued, because now what we do know is that local investment has jumped to more than 60% in KCB. All right, now we look at that. Now, in total, local investors have now bought an additional 10.99 billion stake in KCB since COVID-19 entered the country last March, at a time when the trend has been international investors leaving the local market. If you look at the latest regulatory filings, they indicate that KCB is amongst the biggest beneficiaries of local individual and institutional investors, such as pension funds, who have added 245.742 million shares, or 7.65 additional stake in the lender between March last year and the end of last month. Now, the biggest stake is at 68.8%, with international share down to an 11.44%. 4% stake. Let's move on to another indicator of where KCB Group share price trend has been, and you can actually see that yes, indeed, as from Q2, you can say that it has been on a high, sort of expressing the positive sentiment in the country right now. The things might be pointing northwards in terms of the market recovering from that grip that we did go through when we got into the coronavirus pandemic. Now, that's exactly how we start this morning in terms of the biggest headlines that you're waking up to this morning. Some of the stories are going to take the center stage on our economic review. More reason for you to stick around. My name is Simbalaji Charles Kiage. Let's begin. Good morning. Let's start this news in a Kiambaa constituency, Kiambu County, where vote counting is underway after voters went back to the ballot in a hotly contested by-election. The high-stake by-election attracted 8 candidates, but the front-runners are Jubilee Party's Karibi Njama and UDA's Njuguna Wanjiku. It's a do-or-die mini-poll with President Uhuru Kenyatta's Jubilee Party going head-on with Deputy President William Ruto's UDA outfit. Over 90,000 votes are up for grabs in a constituency with a population of more than 235,000 people, according to the 2019 census. Kiambaa, which is one of the 12 constituencies, and Kiambu County has 5 wards. The Kiambaa parliamentary seat fell vacant following the death of Paul Koinange in a match this year. The outcome of the mini poll could have far-reaching effects, especially on Deputy President William Ruto, who's making inroads in the Mount Kenya region ahead of the 2022 elections. It is also a litmus test for the Jubilee Party,